Okay, geometry students, in this video we will be studying conditional statements, or they're also called if-then statements. Please copy this in your notes if you would, please. Your heading today is conditional statements. Conditional statements, lesson 2.5a. Now it says letter A here because we're going to look at the rest of lesson 2.5 in a couple of days here. Okay, but conditional statements is your heading, lesson 2.5a, and include today's date in your notes if you would, please. I'll pause just a second while you copy this down. Conditional statements, lesson 2.5a, and include today's date. Now, let's start off by looking at an example of what a conditional statement is. When you see this example, you will understand why these statements are also called if-then statements. Okay, go ahead and copy this example in your notes if you would, please. And here is the example. Please copy this down. Here is a conditional statement, or an if-then statement. If the team wins the semifinal, then the team will play in the championship. Please copy this in your notes if you would, please. If the team wins the semifinals, then the team will play in the championship. Copy this in your notes. Now while you're copying this down, I want to talk to you for a second. You understand that one part of the expression is conditional based on the other part of the statement. That's why it's called a conditional statement. You have to win the semifinal first before the second part of the statement is true. So this part here is based on this part over here. If you win your semifinal game, then you will play in the championship. And this is called a conditional statement. Okay? All right, hopefully by now you've copied this down. And once again, we call this a conditional statement, or we call it an if-then statement. Now, it is important that you understand that a conditional statement is made up of two parts. As you can see, there's the first part here and the second part over here. Okay, now don't write any of this down right here. Just listen to me, okay? Now, there is a name for each part. Okay, now I want you to write this down. Write this down. The if part is called the hypothesis. Write that down, please. The if part is called the hypothesis. So after you've written this in your notes right here, then I want you to go up to this statement right here. I want you to circle this part. I want you to draw an arrow, and I want you to write the word hypothesis. I'm gonna wait a second while you do this. Okay? Write this down right here. The if part is called the hypothesis, and then come up here in your notes and circle this and go ahead and draw an arrow and put the word hypothesis. It's very important that you understand this. Okay, now let's continue on and look at the second part. The then part is called the conclusion. Copy this in your notes right here, please. Copy that down. The then part is called the conclusion. So in your notes, I want you to circle the then part and then make a note. This is called the conclusion. So come up here, and in your notes, I want you to circle this and then draw an arrow and label this as the conclusion. Okay, which makes total sense. I mean, this is your hypothesis. You don't know if it's going to happen or not, so you're not sure. So it's called your hypothesis. If the team wins, then the conclusion or the outcome will be is your team will play in the championship. So this last part, the then part, is called the conclusion. Okay? I'll pause just a second while you copy this down. The then part is called the conclusion. So then the team will play in the championship. Draw an arrow. This is called the conclusion. Please copy all of this in your notes. All right, let's continue on. Now, understand that in this class, we will be using the phrases conditional statement and if-then statement interchangeably. They are the same thing. So sometimes I will call these statements like this a conditional, and sometimes I will call them an if then statement. So please understand that. You probably don't need to write this in your notes unless you want to, but just understand and remember that I will call these statements conditionals, and I will also call them if-then statements. Okay? All right, I'm probably going a little slow here, but I'd rather bore you than lose you. So let's make sure you're getting this, okay? All right, let's continue on. Now, I know this is pretty simple, but be thankful it's easy, okay? Let's practice just a couple of these. Okay, let's continue on. Label the hypothesis and the conclusion in the conditional given below. So here it is. Please copy this in your notes. I will pause just a second while you do that. If I pass the driving test, then I will get my driver's license. Please copy that in your notes. If I pass the driving test, then I will get my driver's license. Copy that in your notes. And again, this is really easy. I know it's really easy, but it's also very important. Circle this and label it. You can use the letter H if you want to. I have no problem with that. There's your hypotenuse, or excuse me, your hypothesis, not your hypotenuse. And then this is your conclusion. There we go. These are really, really simple, but you'll be surprised how students, even in my track 1 class, on their last test, they got these two things turned around. Some of them called this the conclusion, and they called this the hypothesis. So make sure that you really understand this, okay? All right, let's continue on. Try another one, just one more. Copy this in your notes, please. If I sleep through my alarm, then I will miss the school bus. If I sleep through my alarm, then I will miss the school bus. Copy that in your notes, please. After you've copied this in your notes, feel free to go ahead and circle one of these and label them the conclusion, and circle one of these and label them the hypotenuse, okay? Or excuse me, the hypothesis, okay? So feel free to do that. All right, I'm going to wait another second before I do that. Copy this down and label one expression, label one part the hypothesis, and label one part the conclusion, okay? All right, here we go. You should have circled this here, and you should have called this your hypothesis, and you should have circled this part here, and you should have called this your conclusion. Okay? Hope this is making sense. Let's continue on. Okay, now hopefully you have found the notes so far to be pretty easy. I mean, they really have been probably very boring, but again, I would rather bore you than lose you, okay? So hopefully you found the notes pretty easy. Let's move on now to something a little more difficult, but it's still pretty easy. It's just a little more difficult, okay? I want you to take a comment that I'm going to give you, and I want you to learn to write it in if-then form. Okay, but here's the problem. Please listen to me carefully. These types of problems can be confusing. If you get the if and the then parts turned around, you will miss the problem. And that's actually very common and very easy to do, to get the if part and the then part turned around. So you've got to be really, really careful, okay? Hold on one second. All right, write this phrase as a conditional. Now what I would do is in your notes, I would write this down right here. So please copy this down. Every game on my computer is fun to play. All right? Every game on my computer is fun to play. Now, what I encourage my students to do is this. I encourage my students to write two conditionals, doing it both ways, and then look at which one makes sense. Okay, for example, go ahead and copy this in your notes. Every game on my computer is fun to play. Please copy that in your notes. And then write this down. If a game is on my computer, then I am having fun. Okay, that's a good way to do it. I don't think you would argue with me. Every game on my computer is fun to play, so I said if a game is on my computer, then it's fun to play. That's pretty easy. Every game on my computer is fun to play, so if a game is on my computer, then it's fun to play. All right, I guess I could say, maybe I should say, then it's fun to play. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. Now, think about, now turn it around. I'm going to put the fun to play part first. So if a game is fun to play, then it is on my computer. Now students, think about this for a second. Only one of those matches this comment. If a game is on my computer, then it's fun to play. If a game is fun to play, then it's on my computer. This second sentence is not right. That's not right at all. I mean, you could be playing basketball in the gym. That's fun to play. You could be playing soccer outside or football. That's fun to play. You could be playing Monopoly or whatever, and that's fun to play, and it's not on your computer. This given statement up here is not saying that every fun game has to be on your computer. It's saying if it's on my computer, then it's fun to play. I hope you see the difference here. And so the correct way to write this statement in conditional form is this right here. So please I really wanted you to write both of those. Let me put that back real quick. I really wanted you to have both of these in your notes, and then I would circle this top one as the correct one. Okay, I really would. All right, so let me get my pen here real quick and make note this is the correct one. Okay, all right, let's continue on. Let's try another one. Write this phrase in your notes. I will buy the CD if it costs less than $15. I will buy the CD if it costs less than $15. Copy this in your notes, please. Okay, students, now this one here is a little interesting, okay? Go ahead, and I want you to try this on your own. Go ahead and write an if-then statement starting with if I buy the CD. We're going to go with this part first, so go ahead and try that on your own. If I buy the CD, then, and go ahead and finish this on your own. If I buy the CD, then it cost less than $15. Now, on your own, go ahead and write it the other way. Go ahead and take this part right here and put it first for your if part. Okay, so go ahead and do that. Let's see how you do. Okay, now students, listen, some teachers would argue one way and some would argue the other way. To be honest with you, on this situation here, I'm probably fine with either one. And by the way, sometimes that will happen, and what it's called, you don't need to write this down, but when this happens, it's called a biconditional statement. Don't write that down, it's nothing you need to know. But when you can write a statement both ways, we call that a biconditional statement. And I really have no problem with either one of these statements. I mean, listen to the first one. If I buy the CD, then it costs less than $15. If the CD costs less than $15, now I'll buy the CD. I mean, both of those seem fair. The original comment was, I will buy the CD if it costs less than $15. So if I know you bought it, then I know it costs less than $15. And if it costs less than $15, you said you're going to buy it, so I know you bought the CD. So in this problem here, I would accept either one of those two. Okay, let's try two more. Please copy this in your notes. Every duck on the pond is hungry. Every duck on the pond is hungry. Please copy that in your notes. And if you want to work ahead, go ahead and write two if-then statements, starting with this part and ending with this part, and then vice versa. Okay, so you can just wait for me or you can work ahead. It's up to you. But go ahead and copy this down in your notes. Every duck on the pond is hungry. Okay, let's go ahead and try this one together, students, and let's see what you guys can come up with. Okay, let's go ahead and write the first one. If a duck is on the pond, then it is hungry. All right, and then let's write it the other way. If a duck is hungry, then it is on the pond. Now students, only one of these supports the original statement. Look carefully at what the statement is saying right here. Listen carefully. Every duck on the pond is hungry. So if a duck is on the pond, then it's hungry. That's exactly right. Every duck on the pond is hungry. So if a duck is on the pond, then it's hungry, because every duck on the pond is hungry. This one here is not true. If a duck is hungry, then it's on the pond. And that's not true. There could be a hungry duck. My handwriting's horrible, I know that, but there could be a hungry duck on the ground somewhere, walking around, okay? So this expression here is saying every duck on the pond is hungry. So if a duck is on the pond, then it is hungry. That is the proper way to write the if-then statement, okay? I hope you're getting this. This can be confusing, so really take good notes and listen to this carefully. Let's do one more, okay? And then we're finished with the whole video, okay? Copy this in your notes if you would, please. I will go running if it does not snow. Please copy that in your notes. I will go running if it does not snow. Please copy that in your notes. I will wait a second while you do that. And then if you want to go ahead and work ahead, feel free to do that. You can go ahead and write your two statements here using your if and your then, okay? Copy this in your notes and then go ahead and write your two statements if you would like to, or you can wait for me, that's up to you. I will go running if it does not snow. And here we go. Okay, let's start with the first part. Let me slide this down a little bit so we can see the phrase. There we go. All right, if I go running, then it is snowing. And the other part would be if it is snowing, then I will go running. Now, students, please listen to me carefully. You have to ask yourself which one of these two phrases, and maybe both of them work, maybe none of them work, but which one of these phrases here communicates what this phrase here is trying to say. I will go running if it snows. So, if I go running, then it is snowing, or if it is snowing, then I will go running. Well, students, I hope you're seeing this okay. It's this statement right here. It says, I will go running if, oh, I guess it says doesn't snow. Sorry about that. If, then it isn't snowing. Sorry about that. If it isn't snowing. Sorry, guys. Okay, so if it isn't snowing, then I will go running. That's what it's saying. I will go running if it does not snow. But if I go running, then it's not snowing. That's not necessarily true. You're saying I will go running if it does not snow, but that doesn't mean that you would go, if I go running, then it's raining. If I go running, then it's windy. I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios you'll go running, but one thing is for sure, if it's not snowing, then you will go running. And that's what this statement here was saying. You really need to practice these and understand which way to write them, and maybe watch this part of the video again if you need to, okay? But it's very important in geometry to know which part is the hypothesis, which part is the conclusion, and then be able to write it correctly as a conditional or in if-then form, okay? If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call or email.